guys, I want to talk about Facebook ads today, and something really important. Okay, there's the brink of it is, if you are a gym owner, you're a bootcamp owner, or any kind of personal trainer, and you want to use Facebook ads to generate clients and generate leads consistently and get clients at a profit, you need to listen to this, because this 10-minute live stream, or however long we go for, is going to tell you more than probably the last $2,000 course you bought on the subject. All right, so pay attention very carefully if you're not getting consistent leads from your Facebook ads, and if you are maybe you're getting leads but you're not making enough money back. Okay, this is critical. And the thing about, what really sucks about what I want to say is, this is the same thing that you go through when you try and tell your clients, they're not getting results because they need to eat their vegetables. And they get, yeah, I know that, but what's the real secret, right? And this is what Fit Pros left, right, and center are doing, and it's a problem. Here are some key things you need to know about Facebook ads, first of all, okay? So, most of the time, a Fit Pro will come to me and say, my ads aren't working. Sometimes clients who are new to our program will say this. They'll say, you know what, my ads aren't working. It happened with someone, it happens all the time. And the first thing is, when you think the ads aren't working, that's going to lead you to have shiny object syndrome. You pull the plug, you quit too soon, and you try and do other things. But the first thing I ask my clients, or Fit Pros that say this, is define not working. Tell me what you mean by not working, right? And what actually happens is, because there's very little understanding of how paid media and investing actually works, what's generally happening most of the time, 99% of the time, when I actually I help the Fit Pro actually look at the numbers, right, objectively, and look at the breakdown of numbers, what's actually happening is, maybe they're paying, £5 a lead, £10 a lead, £15 a lead, and they think it's not working. And the reason they think it's not working is because they're actually saying is, my results aren't as good as either what another Fit Pro is doing, or it's not as good as my results a year ago or 6 months ago on Facebook. So we need to talk about these two things very carefully, because this is really tripping you up, a lot of you guys, okay? First of all, right, I've seen someone get, £4 leads on Facebook, which is good. It's a great result overall, right? To pay £4 to get someone to qualify themselves to you is still ridiculously cheap, right? But Fit Pros say to me, but that guy, he's getting £2 a lead. Or I saw a Facebook ad guru who promises $1.96 a lead. The problem is, it doesn't matter what anyone else pays for a lead. What your competitor pays for a lead is just as important to you as how much they bench press. It's irrelevant what someone else is doing. And if you're trying to run your business based on somebody else's numbers, you're driven by ego, you're totally subjective, and you're living in fear, right? Because you're playing a comparison game. Doesn't matter, how many followers someone has, or what they pay per lead. That doesn't matter. What matters is your own economy, right? That's the first thing. The second thing Fit Pros tend to say is, I ran an advert a year ago. These are the dabblers. These are the guys that run an advert only when they need clients, only when cash flow gets low. They get a surge of clients in, then they stop the advertising. Bad move, right? And they come back then 6 months later, a year later, they try and run the same ad that they ran back then, and they say, Justin, I ran the same ad a year ago. I was paying, £3 a lead. Now I'm paying £10 a lead. What's wrong? And I say, what's wrong is you waited a year. Right? Because the Facebook ad platform, any paid ads platform, it's not like going into a shop where you buy the advertising for the same price all the time. It's a real market. It's like a real estate market. And what happens is, in the early days, Facebook was very, 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 very cheap. But as every day goes by, the average Facebook ad cost is going up. And there's nothing you can do about that, right? I mean, you can slow it down and you can still do things in your funnel to get better results and lower the costs. But you have to accept the cost is going up. The same way, if I went to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, 40 years ago, and I wanted to buy a patch of sand, you know, I wanted a grassy area of sand, I could have bought it for $5,000. Today, to buy the same patch of land in Dubai would cost me $5 million because the real estate grew. The place saturated and grew in economy, right? But if you got there at the right time when it was brand new, before it was going to pick up, you would have made a lot of money now, right? But you can't go back to the same real estate 10 years later and say, well, this was, you know, land in Dubai was only $5,000 30 years ago. I want that same price again. Tough. The market has moved on. You have to realize, okay, this is the super important lesson that virtually no marketing or business coaches will ever tell you. Your business is part of a bigger ecosystem, right? You can do everything right inside your business, but you know, 90% of your success is still affected by what happens outside your business. You are, especially if you have a supplier like Facebook, because Facebook is your supplier of advertising. And if all your leads only depend on Facebook, then basically, you know, you're a slave to them. And they can put the price up as more and more people start using ads and there's less space on the news feed, they put the price up because it's more in demand, okay? It's very, very simple. But most Fit Pros have never been taught that concept of how it actually works. So the price is going up. Okay, the prices have gone up at least 10x. You know, back when I started running Facebook ads for my gyms 7 years ago, I think it was, 7 or 8 years ago, I would get leads for 30 cents. Think about that. A fully qualified, or I would get application forms for less than €1, less than £1, right? Imagine that. Fully application forms for less than £1. I could put £5 down and get 5 forms a day, right? Today, that doesn't happen. We'll pay anywhere. We have different locations, but I mean, in different countries, but you know, on average, we'll pay anywhere from £2, £4, £6, maybe £8 a lead, all right? But it's not £1 anymore. Now, I could sit here and bitch and moan and think of a better time and say, well, 6 years ago it was only £1 and now I've got to pay £4. Facebook ads don't work anymore, right? But I would be a complete fool because, you know, because again, I can't sit and wish for those days to come back. I was lucky and fortunate. I got in at the right time, made a good move and got a good success. But what we've got to realize is, guys, you've got to think of things in relative terms as well. Even today, if you're paying £4 a lead, £5, hell, £10 a lead for a good qualified application is still most likely going to make you an ROI, right? You have to understand this because if you pay, let's say £10 for an application, it's not perfect, right? And there's things we can do to try and reduce that cost per lead, definitely. But if you look at the overall, take a step back and look at your numbers, you'll see that if you're paying £10 for an application form and it takes you 5 application forms to close just 1 front-end sale, let's say you have a front-end offer where you charge maybe, you know, £120 for the first month, for example, right, for a month-long program. So even if you spent £50 to get 5 leads and you closed only 1, you've spent £50 to make, in this example, £120 on the front, right? And so if you spent £100 and you got 2 sales, you would have made £240 up front. 2 people would now be doing your 1-month program. And out of those 2, let's say one of them then continues into a 6 or 12-month program with you, and that client is worth £1,000 a year to your business. So you've spent £100 and you've generated 1,000 back. That's a 10x return, even at £10 a lead. So when you actually break the numbers down and you actually look at this, you finally start seeing the bigger picture. And going back to the Fit Pros I said, who like they come and say my ads aren't working because I say, why aren't they working? Because I'm paying £10 a lead. Why is that a problem? Because it used to be £4 a lead. And I say, great, well I used to have less grey hair as well, but I can't change that. And second of all, they might say, it's not working, I shouldn't pay £10 a lead, this is wrong because that guy or that girl is paying only £5 a lead. Doesn't matter what they do, because here's the first big secret there is track your numbers from a proper macro view, and you'll actually see if you're offering a long-term recurring service like bootcamp or semi-private, you're still more than likely going to make the money back, right? You don't need £2 leads, right? So the first big secret is track your numbers, and 90% of the time, you're going to see that even if you pay £10, 15, hell, £20 a lead, you're probably still going to make your money back soon, okay? That's secret number one. Now, the next thing to look at is, the next thing I need you to know, here's where the next real big secret comes in. And again, no marketers will tell you, no Facebook ad experts will tell you this either. Because the next big thing that you believe, which is wrong, which is flat out wrong, is that you believe the goal of Facebook ads or any paid advertising, you believe it's to get the cheapest lead possible. And it's not. It's really not. This is one of the biggest secrets I teach our Fit Pro mentoring clients that blows them up and they then start getting crazy results and growth. The goal of your advertising is not to get the cheapest cost per lead possible. No, 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 no. If you want cheap leads, we can get you cheap leads all day long. They're not going to be very qualified though, right? What the real goal of marketing, according to Dan Kennedy, the late Dan Kennedy, one of the godfathers of marketing and direct response advertising, what Dan Kennedy says, and what I learned from Dan Kennedy is, whoever can afford to invest the most to acquire the client will win the market. Let me say that again, write this down. Whoever can afford the most to acquire the client will win the market. So here's what that means. Whoever can actually afford the most to invest in getting a lead and invest in getting a sale on Facebook ads or any advertising, if you can afford the most money and afford the most time until that prospect becomes a client after you've invested in getting the lead, you will dominate the market because you can now afford more buying power. Here's an example of that, right? So this is what I tell our clients. I say to my clients and our gym owners, lean into the resistance. Look at the prices going up of Facebook ads and lean into it, because here's one thing we do very differently. And I'm giving you guys very much behind the scenes, high level business strategy right here, which is how we dominate our areas. We're opening multiple locations while gyms are going into liquidation around us, okay? And it's not slowing down. We get 100, 200 people starting 4 and 6 week programs with us every couple of months, like clockwork. And here's how. Here's the difference. It's a mindset difference and a strategy difference, not a tactical one. Our ads are probably the same as yours, right? It's not a tactic, it's not about the copy on our advert. No, it's a mindset difference, it's a perspective difference and a strategy difference. Here it is. I have a talk with all of my business partners who run the gyms around the world, and also with our Fit Pro mentorship clients, and I tell them one thing. You should assume and expect the price of your ads to go up. Now what we do is this, we create our strategy, assuming we're going to pay 10 times more to get the customer, right? And what we ask is, how could we get our business to a point where even if we spent the entire amount of the front end price transaction to get the client, how could we still make money? In other words, let's say we run a 6 week challenge, which we do. in some of our locations. And we charge £150 for that 6-week program. That's our front end offer. And 70 to 90% of those people will carry on 3, 9 or 12-month contracts with us. But let's assume, right, we say, hey, what if our advertising went so expensive? What if Facebook whacked their prices up overnight and it cost us now £150 in advertising just to make a £150 front-end sale? What would happen? And we say, if that happened tomorrow, how could we still make profit? Right, and that's what we don't ask if Facebook ad prices went up, how do we get cheaper leads? Because it'll come a point, we're going back to the example in Dubai, buying land, it just ain't possible. There's gonna come a point where, you know, you'll be doing everything right. You could have the world's best copywriter make the perfect advert for you. You could have the best image in the world. You could have the perfect funnel. You could be amazing on the phone. But there's going to come a point where Facebook ad prices are going to go up. You're going to pay more per lead, regardless. And you're going to come to me and say, Justin, my ad costs have gone up. How can I improve my advert? How can I make my ad copy better? And I'll say, you know what? You probably can't. How can I make my landing page better? You know what? You probably can't. The reason you're paying more is not because your funnels and ads aren't good enough. Sure, there's a lot of room for improvement with a lot of you, but there'll come a point where that becomes a non-issue. There'll come a point where we are doing everything right. Remember, paying £1 a lead in the past, the price goes up, not because my adverts got worse, not because my copywriting got worse, not because my images worse, they've got better over time, but still prices have gone up. So you have to start realizing the perspective that even if you fix all these things, the price is going to go up anyway. This is the one thing I need you guys to understand, because you're plotting your strategy completely wrong. And you're still hoping and wishing for cheaper leads. And it's not the solution. Maybe you can do a couple of things and lower your cost per lead, sure. Right? But, you know, that's secret number 2, right? Whoever can actually afford the most is going to win the market. Because here's the thing. If you, let's say me and you were in the same area, we're competitors, right? And we're both running Facebook ads, with identical offers, identical funnels, everything, right? If you're paying £5 for a lead, and that's too expensive for you, but I can afford to pay £10 a lead because I know my numbers, and I know that I'm still going to make the money back. It might take me a little bit longer. I might be working at slightly higher risk, right? But if I'm paying £10 to get the lead and you're only paying £5, but I know I can spend more and still make money back, I'm going to, number 1, keep advertising. You are going to quit. You're going to spend £5 a day and go, this doesn't work. I'm not making enough money back, because you weren't following secret number 1. You weren't actually tracking your numbers, right? You were just looking at what it cost you. You weren't looking at what it's actually earning you. And number 2, because you don't spend as much and I spend more, Facebook is going to give me the buying power. Because remember, we're both competing for a limited real estate. And if I'm telling Facebook, hey, I've got this advert and I'll pay you £10 to show it to my audience of women who are aged 30 to 45 in the area, and you have an advert and you're paying Facebook only £5 to show that advert to the same audience, guess who Facebook is going to give the real estate to? My advert is going to be shown to more people. Your advert is going to be shown to less people. You are going to pay more per lead, right? Your ad costs are going to skyrocket up because nobody's engaging on your post. You're being charged per 1,000 people that see the advert, and no one's clicking on yours because they're not seeing it. Whereas thousands of people are seeing my advert simply because I'm paying more. It's a hard pill to swallow, guys. I know it's tough, because you want to believe the marketing gurus. You want to believe that the magic sales copy is going to help you. You want to believe that if you get the right tone of color on your image, that you're suddenly going to make 6 figures and 7 figures. And it's absolute bullshit, guys. The fact is, if I can afford to spend more than you, if everything else pound for pound is the same, but I'm willing to put more money in, Facebook gives me the leads, not you. That's the tough pill to swallow. And the reason these ad costs are going up everywhere is because now the bigger companies are finally putting their money into Facebook. Mercedes-Benz, Coca-Cola, bigger brands and companies are now putting their money into Facebook. And so it's driving the cost up for all of us. So please accept that reality that you're going to pay more for your leads every single year. Think about this, guys, right? You know, how many of you guys still notice that you get adverts in your Gmail, right? You notice you have advertisements in your Gmail account. Do you really notice that when you do a Google search, sponsored Google ads come up at the top? Most of us don't, because we've had that platform around for over 10 years and we've become desensitized to it. We've seen those ads so many times, we now get something called advert blindness. The same thing is going to happen on Facebook, guys. Right now, the ads are still relatively new. People are clicking them. In a couple of years, you know, people are going to be so sick and fed up of adverts on their newsfeed, they're going to ignore them, and the price is going to go up again. The cost of Facebook ad, the cost of your leads is going to go up year after year, and you can look back at the stats from Facebook's own CFO, their own Chief Financial Officer, tells you that the price has gone up by multiple times over the last couple of years and will continue to do so. Okay? So the sooner you accept this and you stop hoping to get £3 leads anymore, the sooner you can actually start putting a proper strategy in place. So secret number one, again, know your numbers. Are you actually losing? Are your ads actually not working right now? Do the math. You might be surprised. And second of all, prepare to pay more, because that's not really a bad thing. If you understand what Dan Kennedy says, if you can afford to spend the most, you can actually win the market. The problem is, how you do that, how can you afford to spend more and still make money? The thing is, and this is what most of you guys don't want to hear, is that in order to do that, in order to be able to spend more and still make a profit, how do we do that? It's done by working on the back end of your business. What I mean is, it means you have to increase your maximum lifetime client value. It means when you do acquire a client, if you paid more to get that client through the door, you have to make sure you retain them for more months. It means you have to make sure you get results for them so they generate referrals for you. It means you have to think about upsells and cross-sells and other additional services they might want to purchase from you so they spend more money in your business. And unfortunately, most of you, or at least a lot of Fit Pros I talk to, don't want to do that work. They don't want to do the back end work, because that's the real work of operating a business. You've got to give amazing customer service, have amazing offers, retain them for a long time, get referrals and get results. And if you do that, if your average lifetime client value is £1,000, £2,000 or £3,000 a year, then if you do that work, then you're actually probably super able to afford to pay £100 to get the customer, £200 to get the customer, maybe £300 to get a customer. So how much can you actually afford to spend to get one customer? And how much is that customer actually worth to your business? That's secret number 3. What is your lifetime value? Because that's the magic number now. And here's the difference. We're growing our gyms rapidly. We're taking over new units every 6 months. We're growing by an average of every 6 months, we're growing a new unit, right? Why? Because of this. While our competitors are going out there trying to shave off their lead costs, they go on Facebook every day, they post in Facebook groups, and they say, Justin, I'm paying £5 a lead. What can I do to spend only £4 a lead? How can I save £1? And I say, I don't really know, right? Or a couple of things, maybe. But here's what I'm doing. Instead of trying to shave off a few pence or a few pounds, we are thinking about how do we add hundreds or thousands of pounds to our lifetime client value? How do we take our average retention rate from 6 months and boost it to 12 months? So we make double the money we back from what we spent to get that customer. Instead of thinking, how do I make a better image? We're thinking, how can I get 3 more referrals this week? How can I get my clients to refer more so every client I have is making massive money for my gym, right? Instead of asking, how do I improve, can you improve my sales copy? Can you make my benefit bullets better? No, I probably can't, right? I mean, because if you try and fix your funnel from the front, from the first thing that people see, which is the Facebook ad, that's not where the money is. I hope you can see. Let me know a comment, guys. Is this making sense to you? Because I know this is pretty high-level strategy. I know marketers and business coaches don't tell you this stuff. But is it making sense, guys? I really want this I'm trying to put this down your fucking throat right now and let you know, like, this is the reality. I want you to understand this. Because this is critical, maybe to the future success of your business. If you're on the verge of collapsing and going under in 6 months, this one thing I'm telling you for free on this live stream could keep you in business for another 20 years. So I want you to really understand the significance of what I'm telling you today and not take this for granted because you got it from a free Facebook group. All right? This is literally how we run our businesses and how we're scaling all over the place. Right? Because that's the thing. First secret, track your numbers for those who just joined on. You say your ads don't work, but tell me the real numbers. You look at you always look at your costs per action, but are you tracking your earnings per action? So you can probably tell me, you can all tell me, I pay, £2 cost per click. I pay £10 cost per lead. I pay £100 cost per sale. Some of you don't even track that, which is embarrassing if you're in business and don't even know those numbers. It's frankly embarrassing if you followed me for any length of time, and I've been telling you this for a long, long time. You need to know, what do you pay for a click? What do you pay for a lead? What do you pay for a sale? If you want to run paid advertising, but you can't be bothered to track those 3 numbers, you may as well quit now, right? But let's say you do know those costs. Can you also now tell me your earning per action? So I want you to go to your numbers and figure out, okay, you spent £1,000 last month on advertising, let's say. Let's say you spent £1,000 and you got 10 front-end sales, right? Forget the back end for now. Let's just say you sold a 6-week program for £100 and you spent £1,000 and you got 10 sales. So you spent £1,000 last month and you earned £1,000 back. So you technically broke even on the front. Still, a lot of you guys will say that was a failure because you're not considering the back end. But the way I look at it is, if I spend £1,000 and I got 10 front-end clients to pay me £1,000 back, I haven't broken even because I've got 10 people who probably, 5 of those are going to become long-term clients worth £5,000 a year to my business. So in my mind, I spent £1,000, I recovered my £1,000 cost, and I've got an extra £5,000 a year now waiting for me. That's how I look at it. I look at it as I'm investing in assets, not all of which will monetize overnight. Because if I got 10 clients in this example, that means I probably also got about 30 leads, right? I've also invested in those leads. They haven't become clients yet. But if this is January, for example, let's say I'm doing this example in January. I pay £1,000 in January, we get 30 leads, 10 sales, I make only £1,000 back front end. I've got £5,000 still waiting for me ROI from this ad spend. But now I've got 20 more leads who didn't buy. Now when I follow up, and inside our mentorship, we give you all our follow-up systems to plug and play. So our clients are doing this. When you follow up then, in a free Facebook group like this, or through messenger bots, or email marketing, or SMS marketing, or just, calling the leads again a second time, right? When you follow up, then you'll see probably at least another 5 of those leads would become clients in 30 to 60 days from now. So we come into February or March, and then another 5 of those leads I purchased in January now become clients. So now what's my return on investment for my January ad spend, right? That's the difference. Most of you guys are trying to run this kind of 3-day funnel where you put money in on Monday and you think you have to make all the money back by Wednesday or it was a failure. And then it doesn't work. You don't make 10x ROI overnight. You think it doesn't work because you're basing your results based on how Facebook worked 6 years ago and you're living in the past in denial, and then you pull the plug or you say it doesn't work for me or Facebook ads don't work in my town or whatever else it might be, right? Stop blaming other people, stop blaming the economy, stop blaming Facebook, stop blaming poor quality leads. The fact is, you didn't track your numbers. You're probably earning more back than you thought you did. Secondly, you're wasting all your time trying to get the cheapest leads possible instead of adding value and increasing what you make per customer. You're trying so hard to reduce what you spend to get the lead or the client, and you're not spending time on doing things to make more for the client because you're not realizing that costs are going to go up regardless of what you do. So you may as well go with the flow and say, look, let's assume, because this is the thing, even if we get £3 leads, which we do a lot of the time, I don't rest on that. I don't rely on that. I don't trick myself to thinking with cognitive bias that it's always going to be this way. I say, look guys, I know we're spending £3 a lead, but let's not celebrate. Let's assume we're paying £30 a lead. Now, think about this. In your example, whatever you're paying for a lead right now, think of that number. Maybe it's £3, maybe it's £10, whatever it is. Now, I want you to think about this. If you're paying, first of all, triple that number. So if you're paying £3 a lead, imagine it's £9. If you're paying £10 a lead right now, imagine you had to pay £30. Next, I want you to imagine that you could never lower that price. Let's assume Facebook puts a cap and says, any lead you generate is going to be a minimum of this 3x number. So if you're on £30, assume you'll never get a lead for less money than that. That's the reality, that's the way it is. You should think like that. Now the third thing I want you to imagine is, so let's say now you're paying £30 a lead and there's no way to change that ever. Now think about how would you treat and value that prospect now? It's a perspective shift. It's a mindset shift. You see, when I get a lead for £3, I assume I've paid £30. And I say, right, how would I act? How would I follow up? How much would I really try to get the sale? And how much would I really try and retain that client? And how many referrals would I try and get? What value would I give to that prospect in order to extract value back if I knew this was costing me £30 to start a conversation? I bet you would start doing the basics, which you're ignoring, very fucking quickly. You would start tracking the numbers diligently, or you're going to run out of cash. You would start following up more than once. You would work harder to create a value for that prospect and make the sale. You would ask them if they bought from you or not. You would ask them, hey, do you know anybody else who might want to benefit from this that I could speak to instead? You would work harder to close the sale if you knew you had to pay more for the lead. And I'm telling you, if you're the only one in your town who starts thinking and acting that way, you will win. You will win. It's a perspective difference, not a tactical one. Right? I barely even know what the ad copy on our Facebook ad says these days. I don't care. It's been the same for years. Right? Because if my cost per click goes from £2 to £2.50, that's not the major issue for me. The issue for me is looking at the stats all across the funnel, getting the real number. And I'll tell you another thing, guys. A big problem for most of you guys, if you run a funnel like this, for most of you, the biggest leakage in your funnel, which means a leakage is the part of the funnel that's costing you the results, is most likely, and let me know if this is true for you, for most of you guys, the problem is you get the application or you get the lead, but then they don't show up to the phone call, right? Or not enough of them show up to the phone call. For a lot of you guys, that's the biggest problem, am I right? So it's not, people are clicking your advert, the advert's working. People are filling out the form, the forms are working. But probably for most of you, not enough of those people are getting on the phone and speaking with you. Because probably if they do speak with you, you probably convert most of them. So for many of you, that gap in the middle is when they opt in to getting on the phone call. That is the biggest problem that's costing you the money, but you're not tracking your numbers, so you don't know. If I say to you, okay, what percentage of application forms showed up to the phone call? Okay, you had 50 applications last month. How many phone calls did you get? Most of you can't even tell me because you're not giving a shit about your business. But if you can tell me, oh, only 15% out of 50 applications, only like 10 or 5 turned up, there's your problem. We need better communication, a better system to communicate with that prospect after the form and before the phone call. But you can't see that, you're blinded because you're too busy over here thinking, is the headline on my Facebook post good enough? Right, guys, I want this to go in and pummel it into your minds because so many of you are struggling with this, and it's hard for me to teach you because, I'm thinking so many levels deeper than you are. It's like your clients when they come to you, and again, like I said at the beginning, they want to know, how do I get results? What's the best exercise? Are press-ups good for me? And you're thinking, well, what about compound movements? What about your goals? What about your strength levels? What about this? And they're just going, no, what's the best exercise? Is it press-ups? Tell me. Because here's the thing, guys. If all your success was down to having, the perfect Facebook ad copy, then we could just give everyone a Facebook ad copy and you all become 7-figure business owners, right? If you have the, what's the word? I don't want to say ignorance because you're not taught this, but if you have the mindset that, if you think, for example, that I'm building multiple 6- and 7-figure fitness businesses purely because, and the only reason I'm doing that and you're not is because I have a better Facebook ad than you, then that's actually insulting to me and insulting to anyone who's growing a real business, right? If you think that your funnel isn't working because you haven't got the right combination of, hey Justin, should I do advert form phone call, or should I do advert opt-in page form, or should I do phone call messenger bot phone call? If you really think that growing a high 6- or 7-figure business is the product of putting 3 things in the right order, you're insulting my intelligence. Right? What you're saying is there's no skill involved, there's no strategy involved, there's no cost-risk ratio analysis involved, there's no future projection and understanding the market ecosystem involved. I just haven't got a high 6-figure business yet because I did advert application form call instead of doing advert opt-in page form. Do you really think your lack of success is because of that? If you do, you need your head checked, right? And again, I hate to be harsh on you guys, but it's the only way to get this message through sometimes. Some of you need a wake-up call. You need a fucking wake-up call, guys, right? The reason you're not getting where you want to be is because you're focusing on the wrong things, you're not tracking your numbers, and you're looking for shortcuts. You're focusing on the front of the funnel, not the back of the funnel. You're focusing on how do I shave my costs, what do I get, instead of focusing on how do I add more value and make more money per client, what can I give? That's the first reason you're struggling. Second reason, you're not tracking your numbers. You're wishing, you're guessing, and because you're not tracking them, that's what's leading you to focus on the wrong things because you're guessing. And you're reacting to your emotional whims of what you think is the problem, right? And the third thing is you're looking for shortcuts. You're trying so desperately to cut down your cost per lead, right? When really you need to be planning and asking, what if we are going to pay more? Let's assume we're going to pay more year on year. Let's assume our ads budget has to grow year on year. How do we change our business? How do we adapt and evolve to still make money? Because when you do that, and this is the hard work that none of you want to do, but when you do it, and I can show you how, step by step, I will mentor you through the process. When you do that, then you will win your local market because your competitors will not do that work. All it takes to succeed and be number one in your town, and we become number one in any town or city we go into, to become number one, all it takes from you is a slightly different perspective, which gives you a slightly different strategy, which means that even if your tactics are the same, strategy and mindset is still 2/3 of the equation. And your competitors are all looking for the best tactic. They have no perspective, they have no long-term strategy. They're reacting to what happens in front of them. They have no plan. They're rushing around. They're acting out of fear. They're not tracking their numbers. They're looking for shortcuts. They're in scarcity. They're looking for what they can take, not looking for what they can give, and they're going to lose. You can be in that category, or you can join us, me and my clients and my business partners, and be in this category because we are winning. And our numbers are proving it across the board. We are growing our gyms and boot camps and units like wildfire, whilst everyone else is falling apart. And a huge part of it, not the only part, but a huge part is because of exactly what I told you on this live stream. So please, 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 if this just changes one of your perspectives, it's worth it for me. If you have any questions, you'd like to explore further, you'd like me to clarify anything, or you just want a personal one-on-one chat about this and see where we can do it in your business, shoot me a message. I'm going to be on mentoring calls next few hours, so I might not be able to respond today, or maybe I'll get back to you tomorrow morning. But reach out, let's change this for you, because now is the window of opportunity on Facebook is closing every day. This gets more expensive. You need to do it properly. Work with a mentor, get the help, and let's do it. All right, guys, I'll speak to you soon. Have a great day.